We interrupt your regularly scheduled programming to bring you this special notice.
Make your way to one of the designated bunkers in your area and prepare for cryostasis. If you cannot make it to safety, roll into a fetal position and protect your head. This is not a test.
Bombs have fallen. Millions dead. It is now up to you to lead your people to survive, perhaps even thrive through this nuclear winter. Downfall is a 4X game by Tasty Minstrel Games that takes place in a post-apocalyptic world where the conditions are so harsh that even the stone rots away during a spoilage event. In this game, you control a territory of survivors newly awakened from cryostasis. You will be gathering resources to feed your survivors, as well as build outposts, bunkers, airships, and cleaning up local radiation in order to keep everybody alive, as well as exploring new areas in order to get more resources, fending off potentially aggressive neighbors, or possibly even taking over your neighbors' territories. You start the game with a combination of airships and outposts, 1 bunker, and 5 survivors in a 4-hex territory. This territory is going to contain 1 space that is a dead zone that you choose, as well as 4 spaces that have 1 level of radiation in it. You will also have a deck that includes action cards and winter cards, as well as a smaller deck of 9 technologies. Considering all the moving parts in Downfall, the mechanics are actually fairly simple. For example, you're going to be using a drafting mechanic for your action cards. On your turn, you get 3 cards from the player on your right. Draw 1 card from your personal deck, so you have a hand of 4. If you draw a winter card, you're going to discard it and move the event track up 1. The winter cards are basically the built-in timer of the game. With each winter, as that event track goes on, worse and worse and worse things happen. Once you have 4 action cards in your hand, you're going to choose what 1 action you're going to do on your turn. You also have a reserve of 2 cards that you chose during setup of the game. And when you're choosing what card to play, you can instead choose 1 from the reserve to play, replacing it with 1 from your hand. The cards represent major actions that are spelled out on your player board, but on the cards down below are also minor actions, which are basically smaller versions of their major counterparts. These are really useful if you don't get the major cards that you need, because there are times where you just need to gather those 2 oil in order to mitigate enough radiation to survive the next turn. You're only allowed 1 action per turn, which is maddening because you feel like you need to do everything right now in order to survive. This is great because it actually allows you to really feel the intensity, the punishing environment of this post-apocalyptic world in which you're living in. The major actions include gather, regrow and excavate, bunker, build, command, research, and war. Each player also has a leader card that has a special ability on it, as well as an owner ability. And what this means is, if you pass it along in the draft and somebody else chooses to use it, then this owner ability is something like a bonus action that you get to do. Play is mostly simultaneous. There are some instances where player order does matter, in which case you simply declare player order matters, and then go by the order number that's on your action card. Now, there are a lot of little things to think about when playing this game. Let's say that you're hoping to have enough food to feed everybody during the next feed event. So you hop into your little airship, you found some land, and you realize that you don't have a storage space. And spoilage comes before feeding. All gathered goods not stored are going to spoil and disappear. So you need to build storage, but you're running out of turns, and what if somebody gets 2 winters at once? You haven't even thought about all the oil you're going to need to clean up the radiation. So what do? There really isn't a right answer. It depends on what everybody else is doing, what cards you're going to be getting, as well as what direction towards victory you've decided to go in. Luckily, even though there's a lot of things that you're going to have to wrap your head around and follow, there's a lot of variability in how you gather those victory points, how you can survive. Although the actions that make up the game are simple, it is not a simple game. There are a lot of complicated decisions to make, and constant events on the horizon to prepare for, all while trying to keep that end goal of winning in mind. Because of the streamlined gameplay, however, this is a 4X game that may appeal to players that wouldn't normally play a 4X game. It is not a difficult game to teach, but the nuances of the game will take at least a playthrough to pick up on, if not more. This is definitely a game that you get more out of with each playthrough. Because of the random tiles and the random events, the way you play the game might vary from one game to the next. Your strategy might be completely different. I played one game where it was best for me to hunker down and just gather the resources in my immediate area, stay on top of the radiation, and make lots and lots of people. And then the next game, I had so little food in that area that I had no choice but to go and invade my neighbors. Both of these games played out very differently, and they felt very different. This forces you to be fluid in your tactics, which is going to be fantastic for replayability. I mean, not only does the game get better as you get better with each gameplay, but also each game is going to be a little different with how you actually approach surviving. The random events is also a massive stack, and you're only using 3 per game. So there's a lot of variability with how you're going to get your points or extra perks. Now, the end goal of this game is all about victory points, as the person with the most victory points at the end is the winner. You're going to get victory points as you play the game from cleaning up radiation, from some of the random events, as well as during conflicts. You will also lose victory points with each survivor death. So it's really important to keep up on your food levels and keep down the radiation levels. At the end of the game, you will also get 2 victory points for each survivor that is still alive, as well as victory points based on what place you're in on the environmental track, as well as the cultural track. One thing you need to think about is this game has a massive footprint. We have a fairly decent size table, and we really had to get creative with how we sat the players down when we did more than 3 players. There were also some issues with crowding on the tiles, and these tiles are really large, but the tiles are separated into spaces. There's going to be between 1 and 3 spaces, and when you cut those tiles in half or into thirds, it can be really difficult to get everything on there. Now, I didn't mind it so much. I actually liked seeing everything piled up, and I was playing with prototype, so with the final components, this might not be an issue at all. Downfall is a really challenging game, and especially when you're first learning, it is easy to find yourself in a position where most of your survivors have died. This isn't a game that you just pull out and play with your game group once. This is going to be something that you're going to want to play several times, because the more you play, the better you get, the more fun you're going to have. This game is perfect for people who have a consistent gaming group because of the learning curve, or who have a family with older kids or teenagers. I think this would be a great way to spend a Sunday afternoon with your kids. It's also good for people who like strategy games, who perhaps haven't got into the 4X game scene at all, because it is a little intimidating. The gameplay on Downfall is very streamlined. It's very easy to learn. It's challenging to play, but it's simple to learn. So I think this is a good way to get into 4X games or to attract people who normally shy away from those types of games. So that was Downfall. It's currently on Kickstarter. Please go check it out if it looks like something you'd enjoy. I invite you to follow my channel, like the video, share it with anybody you think might like it, and thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Bye. Takes place in a post-apocalyptic